I was supposed to attend a crucial business meeting with Daniel, a younger department manager, that day after returning from my abroad assignment for the first time in years. However, Daniel's words were genuinely startling. This older person is new to us. To be honest, he is utterly worthless. Daniel presented me to our client's division manager, Stephen, in this way. Daniel had always been the kind of person who denigrated others, a truly terrible individual. His rudeness wasn't the first time. However, was it really necessary for him to behave that way in front of Stephen? I was enraged. However, Daniel would shudder and pass out the moment he realized who I truly was. I'm 35 years old, and my name is Michael. I'm still unmarried and relish the independence that comes with being single. It's not that I don't have feelings for ladies. I just put my all into my career and came to this conclusion. Perhaps I've never had a girlfriend because I'm a quiet person. I've never had good interpersonal communication skills. As a result, I didn't have many childhood pals. I was frequently made fun of the neighborhood kids for my personality. My identical brother Grant would always defend me in those situations. Hey, give Michael some space. That's how Grant always defended me. I would still have my best ally even if I had no pals. Knowing that alone gave me the willpower to continue. Grant, in contrast to me, was gregarious and had many acquaintances. People have always stated that our personalities couldn't be more different, despite the fact that we are identical twins and appear absolutely alike. Since I've always had trouble with everything I've tried, I frequently felt jealous of Grant's abilities. I told him once, "You've got it easy. You have a ton of friends and are skilled at everything. Life will always go your way, I wager. I simply have no hope in contrast." Grant merely chuckled. "What are you discussing? I may be skilled with my hands, but I'm a lousy student. The intelligent one is you. You need to have greater self-confidence." For the first time, I understood that even Grant, who was always happy, had his own problems. Ever since, we have done everything together. We even entered the workforce together after graduating from college. Even though we ended up working for different companies, we consistently discussed our desire to collaborate in the future. I was hired by a business that sells auto parts. I majored in engineering in college since I've always been interested in it. Thus, this business was a wonderful fit for me. I was put in charge of the development division. Through constant trial and error, I worked on developing and fabricating parts every day. Our department had a laid-back, pleasant vibe, and I was surrounded by nice coworkers and a manager who genuinely cared about his staff. I was able to perform my duties with assurance and comfort because of the folks I worked with. This continued for a few years until my boss summoned me into his office one day and gave me a piece of paper. A notice of personnel reassignment was sent out. I was astounded when I saw it. It stated that I will be working in a plant abroad. My boss put a hand on my shoulder as I stood there stunned. "The foreign facility will greatly benefit from your skills. I sincerely hope you'll take the job." Well, overseas? Uncertainty overcame me, but I also wanted to see if my abilities would translate to another country. I therefore made the decision to consult Grant. If he were in my position, I wanted to know what he would do. I was surprised by what he said. "Around the world? That sounds fantastic. I wouldn't think twice if it were me. This is your opportunity to develop." He was correct. Despite my nervousness, I understood that working overseas would help me in the future. I therefore agreed to the overseas assignment. Grant took the day off work to see me go on the day I was leaving. "Michael, you've got this." "Thanks, man." Grant encouraged me as I got on the plane and departed for another nation. It was a 3-year assignment. I made a self-promise to give it my all during that period. I had trouble with the language at first. What the local workers at the factory were saying was incomprehensible to me. When a few months, I was able to speak with them when I pushed myself into my studies. Working at the plant became very pleasurable after that. 3 years had become 5 before I realized it. I felt I could work there indefinitely since I truly like it. However, headquarters informed me that I would have to return to Japan in the 6th year. I had no choice but to quit the factory, even though it was difficult to say goodbye to the local employees. It was a directive from above. I was resolved to put all I had learned overseas into practice when I returned to Japan. Japan felt rather quiet in comparison to other countries. I made the decision to greet everyone at headquarters first. I experienced a surge of nostalgia when I entered the headquarters building and saw that everything was just as it had been. However, I was taken aback when I entered the components development division. 6 years later, nothing in the office was the same. Everything was entirely different. Only a few of faces were recognized, and the department manager was unique as well. A man approached me as I stood there in awe of how much had changed in just 6 years. "You're Michael, returning from a foreign country. This department's manager is me, Daniel." When I saw Daniel's face, I was unable to conceal my surprise. I could surely know that face. Daniel also stared at me as I stood there dumbfounded. Then, grinning, he scoffed and uttered, "Oh, it's you. You're the useless twin, right?" I fell silent at his words. The truth was, Daniel used to live near me when I was younger, and I had painful memories I couldn't forget. Back then, I was shy and always clung to Grant. And Daniel, who was 3 years younger than us, would constantly tease me. "You two look exactly the same. It's creepy. Stop hanging out together just because you have the same face. Shut up. Get out of here." Grant would always step in and chase Daniel off. But one day, something happened. While I was walking alone without Grant, I ran into Daniel. "Oh no, I have to get out of here." As that thought flashed through my mind, I lowered my head and tried to hurry away, but my feet got tangled, and I ended up falling hard to the ground. Why is my timing always so terrible? As I cursed myself and sat there frozen in embarrassment, Daniel walked over with a smug grin. "Wow, you just tripped over right here? What is this, some kind of comedy skit? You really are hopeless." To hear something like that from Daniel, who was 3 years younger than me, I felt pathetic, completely miserable. I never wanted to feel that way again. So from that day on, I did everything I could to avoid crossing paths with Daniel. By the time I started middle school, Daniel had moved away to attend a prestigious combined junior and senior high school, so I no longer saw him. But the bitter memory never left me. And now, to be reunited with Daniel at work, it was a shock I never saw coming. "My name is Michael, and yes, I'm the older twin. I look forward to working with you." I greeted him calmly, trying to stay composed, but Daniel just laughed. "Can you believe it? I ended up becoming manager before you even though I'm younger." "Well, I did graduate from a top school, and I'm way better at the job than you are. So it was bound to happen. Just make sure you're a good little subordinate and do what I say." With that, Daniel walked back to his desk. Unbelievable. I never imagined I'd have to work under someone like Daniel. But work is work. I'd prove him wrong through my performance. I made up my mind. As I sat at my desk, a woman named Emily who sat next to me spoke up. She hadn't been there 6 years ago, so she must have joined while I was away. Emily was a beautiful woman with strikingly large eyes. "Michael, that's such a strong name." She spoke with a warm smile, maybe trying to ease my tension. "Thank you. I just hope I can live up to it and protect someone someday." I smiled back. It was a simple exchange, but thanks to Emily's kind words, my nerves started to settle. But the moment didn't last. Soon, Daniel's voice boomed across the room. He clearly didn't like seeing Emily and me chatting. "What's so funny over there? You're terrible at your job, so put that energy into working harder. Don't drag Emily down with you." He labeled me as incompetent without ever having worked with me. Our coworkers looked on, stunned. Why was he saying such things to me? I couldn't understand, but I didn't have the courage to argue back. Swallowing my pride, I quietly began working. Then I saw something that made my eyes widen. I glanced over at Daniel and saw that his eyes were shut. He was clearly dozing off. I was so shocked that I instinctively looked over at Emily. She looked exasperated. Then, in a quiet voice, she said, "It's surprising, isn't it? But this happens all the time. You'll get used to it eventually." I had never seen a supervisor sleep on the job before. A manager should lead by example. How could someone in his position act like this? I was stunned, but whether Daniel was sleeping or not had nothing to do with me. I went back to my work. Eventually, Daniel woke up, yawned, and called my name. Now what? I walked over to his desk, puzzled, only to hear something unbelievable. "Hey, you're not busy, right?" That's all he had to say after calling me over. I felt my irritation rise. "Get me coffee." Daniel had just ordered me to go buy coffee. As I stood there in disbelief, he raised his voice even more. "Why are you just standing there? I want coffee. Go get it now." Was that cup of coffee really more important than the work he was interrupting? I couldn't understand it. But if I said anything, it would just make things worse. Reluctantly, I decided to go get his coffee. Just as I was about to leave the office, I heard Daniel's voice from behind. "Hey, I gave you a job to do since you looked bored. Be grateful." What on earth is he talking about? My coworkers looked just as appalled as I felt. I could only sigh. When I returned with the coffee, Daniel had an irritatingly smug grin on his face. What is this guy's problem? With that thought, I handed the coffee to Daniel. Then he said something that completely caught me off guard. Too bad. This isn't the kind of coffee I like. What? If he had a specific preference, why didn't he go get it himself? He had no right to act like this after sending someone else. I was shaking with anger. But Daniel continued, completely unfazed. Well, go buy another one. You really don't have any common sense, do you? And then he tossed the coffee I had just bought into the trash. This was flat-out harassment. The office fell silent, and my coworkers looked at me with pity. If I raised my voice now, it would just give Daniel what he wanted. Telling myself this was just part of the job, I went to buy another coffee. I kept saying to myself, just get through this, and things will get better. But Daniel's behavior only got worse. How long was this going to go on? Every day, those thoughts weighed on me as I went to work, constantly on edge around Daniel. And this day was no different. I kept wondering, what's he going to say to me today? That's when Emily approached me. Daniel just called. He said he has plans and won't be coming in today. He also said to give all his work to you. What? You mean I have to do everything he was supposed to do today? I couldn't help but raise my voice. Emily looked genuinely sorry. Actually, Daniel always dumps his work on others whenever he decides to skip out. It's ridiculous. I was stunned. I didn't know why he was off, but for a department manager to dump all his responsibilities on someone else, it was absolutely unacceptable. I was absolutely furious. But if I was told to do it, I had no choice. I gave up my break time and finished all of Daniel's work. But the next day, when I arrived at the office, Daniel was handing out cookies to everyone. I couldn't help but wonder what got into him. Then he said something that left me speechless. Yesterday, I went on a hot spring trip with my girlfriend. Those cookies are good, right? I was at a loss for words. So while I was stuck doing his work, he was off relaxing in a hot spring. And after everything I did, he didn't even thank me. I started to seriously question his character. I knew better than to expect anything from someone like him. But if we had to work together, I just wished he would act responsibly. I couldn't help but feel that way. As the days of Daniel doing whatever he pleased continued, I began to feel mentally exhausted. That's when Grant invited me out for drinks. It was rare for busy Grant to invite me, so I gladly accepted. We made plans to meet up for the first time in a while. We met at a bar, and he was already there when I arrived. When he saw me, he looked shocked. "Michael, you look completely worn out. Are you okay?" His words made me realize just how tired I actually was. He looked at me with real concern. "Is it because of work after coming back from your overseas assignment?" I couldn't lie to Grant, so I told him everything about Daniel. He looked genuinely surprised. "I can't believe that kind of coincidence. He's still looking down on you? That's unforgivable." Grant was clearly upset, and no wonder. He never got along with Daniel. The reason was simple. Daniel had always treated me unfairly. He acts like he's better than everyone just because he went to a prestigious university, I said. Grant burst out laughing. "Well, that won't last long. A guy like that is bound to crash and burn without us even doing anything. Let's just sit back and watch." He said that as he sipped his drink. It had been a long time since I'd enjoyed a meal so much. Spending time with Grant, the one person who truly understood me, meant the world. We said we'd go for drinks again sometime and parted ways. Would Daniel really end up self-destructing like Grant said? Still, Grant was always right. So I decided to wait and see, just like he suggested. And then, the very next day, it happened. Daniel came in late because he overslept. His complete lack of motivation left me speechless. Yawning, he handed me some documents and told me to organize them. "We've got a meeting with Y Corporation coming up. For some reason, Mr. Irving wants me to bring you along. I have no idea why he'd want someone as useless as you there, but an order is an order. So you better prep those materials before then." With that, he returned to his desk. I immediately began reviewing the documents. They contained detailed information about Y Corporation. Once Daniel was out of earshot, Emily turned to me. "Y Corporation? That's huge. They're one of our most important clients, right?" She looked excited. Y Corporation is a major automaker that produces cutting-edge vehicles and has been doing business with our company for 13 years. We started supplying them from the very beginning. At first, they were just a small startup, but after releasing a line of advanced cars, they skyrocketed to the top of the industry. Thanks to that, they now sell all over the world and are our primary client. Our company's recent growth is largely thanks to Y Corporation. They're launching a new car model, right? This must be the meeting about supplying parts for it. Emily's eyes sparkled. This deal was rumored to be worth millions of dollars. It could make or break our company's future. Exactly. We have to make sure this meeting is a success. Saying that, I got to work compiling the materials. And then, the big day arrived. As soon as I got to the office, I reviewed the presentation materials again. By this point, I had memorized everything about the meeting. In business meetings, clients always tend to ask unexpected questions. This time, I wanted to be fully prepared so I could handle whatever they threw at me. Meanwhile, Daniel looked half asleep, yawning at his desk. Would today's meeting really go smoothly? I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. At the time, I had no idea that my fears would soon be realized. Daniel and I arrived at Y Corporation's headquarters. They've been our clients since the very beginning. This is going to be a breeze. You just sit there and listen to my presentation. Daniel looked completely relaxed. Meanwhile, I was so nervous my legs were shaking. He must have been feeling overly confident about this meeting. We waited in the reception room for the representative to arrive. White Corporation was truly impressive. Their building was several times larger than ours and impeccably maintained. No doubt it was thanks to Mr. Henderson's leadership that the company had come so far in just 13 years. As I was thinking about that, Stephen, the department head from Y Corporation, walked into the room. Daniel immediately handed him his business card and began introducing me. But what he said next was unbelievable. We've got this new older guy. Honestly, he's completely useless. I never thought he'd belittle me in front of Stephen. Of all places, did he really have to act like that in front of a major client? Stephen's face twisted in discomfort at Daniel's comment. I was furious, but I forced myself to focus on the meeting. Then Daniel did something shocking. He started reading from the materials I had prepared. I was speechless. He hadn't prepared anything for the presentation. He had planned all along to just read what I put together. Our company's parts are durable and hard to break. He was just reading straight off the page. This was no presentation. I sat in stunned silence. Sure enough, Stephen looked puzzled. Could you explain exactly how they're durable? Could you give a more specific example? Stephen was absolutely right. Daniel's presentation lacked any substance. Of course it did. I had compiled the materials for internal reference, not for a presentation. And yet, Daniel was simply reading the materials word for word. If he had any real understanding of our company's products, he could have answered Stephen's question easily. But he couldn't. He was visibly shaken. I was speechless. Daniel didn't just know nothing about Y Corporation's products. He didn't even know our own. At this rate, the meeting was bound to fail. And if that happened, the consequences would be disastrous. I had no choice. I decided to give the presentation myself. I handed my business card to Stephen. Perhaps realizing how bad things were, Daniel said nothing to stop me. Excuse me for interrupting, but I'll be giving the presentation from here on. With that, I began presenting without looking at any notes. But instead of listening, Stephen was staring at my business card. Oh no, he's figured it out. As that thought crossed my mind, Stephen began staring intently at my face. Daniel watched, clearly puzzled. Then finally, Stephen spoke. Wait, are you by any chance the twin brother of Mr. Henderson? What? Stephen stared at me with wide eyes. Daniel, thinking Stephen had made a mistake, burst out laughing. Come on, Stephen. That's impossible. His twin was always an idiot. There's no way he could have become a president. But Stephen didn't laugh. He kept looking at me closely, tilting his head. Just then, the door to the meeting room burst open. Stephen, Michael's my twin brother. See the resemblance. The room fell completely silent. Daniel was so stunned, he almost fell off the sofa. They really do look identical. I noticed it when I saw his last name matched Mr. Henderson's on his business card. Stephen broke into a bright smile. No way. That screw-up Grant is the president of Y Corporation? That's got to be a mistake. Daniel raised his voice, clearly unable to accept what he was hearing, but his voice trembled. Then Stephen raised his voice in anger. How dare you say something so rude? Grant is without question the president who built this company from the ground up. Grant glared at Daniel. Stephen, this guy has always been disrespectful. There's no point in reasoning with him. Hearing Grant's words, Daniel stood frozen in place, his face completely pale. No way. Grant is the president? The always arrogant Daniel now shook like a frightened puppy. Yes, it was true. My twin brother Grant was the president of Y Corporation. He had loved cars since he was a kid and used to talk about building his dream car one day. That's why he enrolled in a university with a strong engineering program. After graduation, he founded Y Corporation. He struggled with funding at first, but through sheer persistence and hard work, he built the company into what it is today. Once the company was stable, Grant offered me a job, hoping we could work together. But at the time, I was about to go on an overseas assignment, so I declined. Mr. Irving, my current boss, is the only one at my company who knows that I'm Grant's twin brother. That's probably why he insisted I attend this meeting. Daniel now looked at me, clearly frustrated. It's not fair. I worked so hard to graduate from a top university, and he becomes a president without even doing that. Stephen's expression darkened. What are you talking about? I don't know where you went to school, but for your information, Mr. Henderson graduated from a far more prestigious university than you. What? A top university? Yes, he's a graduate of K University. Daniel's eyes widened in shock. His own alma mater ranked lower than K University. He never imagined Grant had graduated from Japan's most prestigious national university. We both graduated from K University. Daniel turned pale as he looked at the two of us. What? You two? Michael, you're a K University? You never said anything about that. He was clearly shaken. Yes, Grant and I had both graduated from the toughest university in Japan. We were determined to study engineering seriously, so we worked hard and got in on our first try. Grant raised his voice as he watched Daniel flailing in a panic. He had finally reached his limit with Daniel, who had looked down on us every step of the way. What difference does it make what university someone graduated from? That has nothing to do with you. What matters isn't the name of the school. It's whether you can apply what you learned to your job. He was absolutely right. A prestigious degree means nothing if you can't use your knowledge effectively in the workplace. Then Stephen, who had been quietly listening, finally spoke. It seems Daniel hasn't applied anything he learned at university. Didn't they teach you that cutting corners at work is unacceptable? Your presentation today was the worst I've ever seen. Right on the heels of Stephen's words, Grant began to speak as well. I overheard a bit from outside, and honestly, it wasn't even a presentation. Are you underestimating my company? Daniel stood in silence, turning toward me as if begging me to say something to defend him. Why should I have to say anything for Daniel's sake? I was done cleaning up his messes. And then Grant delivered a shocking statement. I only want to work with companies that approach business sincerely. The only reason I agreed to work with your company was because Michael was there. But I no longer have a reason to continue this relationship. As of today, we're terminating our contract. I refuse to work with someone as dishonest and irresponsible as you. What? But we've had such a long relationship. Don't end it like this. Besides, if the contract is terminated, Michael will be in trouble too. Daniel shamelessly tried to use my name to save himself. He probably thought invoking his connection to the president's brother would help, but that was naive. No need to worry, Daniel. Huh. I'm quitting this company. Daniel stared at me in disbelief. Grant looked delighted as he spoke. Michael will be joining my company next month. I plan to have him work as director of sales. That means he'll outrank you. Although, to be honest, I'm not even sure your company will still exist by then. Daniel's knees buckled, and he collapsed on the spot. It was true. I had already decided to leave my current company. I had always dreamed of working with Grant, but never knew when it might happen. After returning from my overseas assignment, I had felt satisfied at my current job. Working on essential parts for vehicle production was deeply fulfilling. I thought maybe staying where I was, continuing in my current role, was the right path. But then Daniel came into the picture, and everything changed. I realized I couldn't work any longer under a self-centered, abusive boss. That was the turning point. And the final straw? The incident with the coffee. That incident was exactly what I needed. It opened my eyes. I wasn't working just to be bossed around by Daniel. I didn't want to stay at a company where someone like him could be in charge. So I told Grant how I felt and decided to join Y Corporation. I'll inform your company that the negotiation ended in failure. Now please leave, Stephen said firmly, dismissing Daniel, who was now completely deflated. Daniel slunk out of the building, head down. What happened next was astonishing. Daniel was officially demoted. The failed negotiation exposed his long-standing laziness and negligence at work. His unacceptable treatment of subordinates also came to light. To make matters worse, it was discovered he had been faking attendance records during frequent absences. He had done whatever he pleased. Daniel begged Mr. Irving in tears, but there was no way such behavior could be forgiven. He was reassigned to a remote factory, but with his oversized ego, he couldn't bear the humiliation and quietly resigned instead, or so I heard through the grapevine. A truly pathetic ending. It was the result of believing a fancy diploma was all he needed and putting no real effort into his career. Once Grant heard Daniel had resigned, he reopened business with our former company. He probably couldn't bring himself to permanently cut ties with a partner that had supported him since the beginning. That's just like Grant, kind and forgiving. As for me, I got re-employed at Grant's company as the head of the sales department. My dream of working alongside him finally came true, and I'm enjoying every day. Looking back, it's strange to think I never would have taken this path if I hadn't run into Daniel. And now, I'm officially dating Emily. I pursued Emily with everything I had. She was kind and beautiful. And eventually, we officially became a couple. Life is something we shape with our own hands. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm determined to keep building a life I can be proud of.
I'm Nick. I'm a young employee at Mitchell Motors, a major car manufacturer. I've loved cars since I was a kid, and after working hard to gain knowledge, I joined this company. My efforts were recognized, and now I'm part of the development team, leading a busy but fulfilling life. Today, after finishing a long meeting for a new product project and about to leave my seat, I was stopped by my manager, Tom. Nick, do you have a moment? Yes, Tom. How can I help you? Don't be so tense. It's not a big deal. You know the part we're using for the new product in the project you're on, the one we discussed in the meeting. Oh, that part. Is there something about it? Yeah, as mentioned in the meeting, we're planning to outsource it. I want you to take charge of selecting the contractor. What, me? I couldn't help but raise my voice in surprise. Seeing me flustered, Tom smiled gently and patted my shoulder. Life is all about experiences. But isn't it too soon for me to handle such an important task? This outsourcing deal is worth $100 million. Can I really manage it? Don't worry. Here's a list of candidates. All of these companies are reliable and have excellent technology. Other employees will help with the negotiations and contract procedures. I want you to visit these companies and develop your eye for quality. Develop my eye. Yes, it's a big deal, but it's a necessary experience for your future. I trust you, so go with confidence. If you have any problems or doubts, you can always consult me. Encouraged by his smile, I left the meeting room still feeling nervous. The list he gave me included companies we have had long relationships with, all trustworthy and technologically capable. If I choose from this list, there's little chance of failure. From that day, I spent a few days contacting the companies on the list and visiting them. Today, I'm visiting the last company on the list. Nick, we've been expecting you. Please come this way. A young female employee politely guided me to the reception room. Probably in her mid-20s, she respectfully handed me her business card. Nice to meet you, my name is Anna. I looked at the card from her. I thought she might be in sales, but she was actually in the technical department, which surprised me a little. Did you think it was unusual for a woman from the technical department to come out? I must have shown it on my face. She hit the nail on the head. I wondered if it was rude to be surprised by her gender, but it would be strange to lie and try to cover it up. I decided to be honest and nodded. Yes, I thought it was a bit unusual to see a woman in a technical role in this industry. I'm sorry if that was rude. It's fine. I hear that often and don't mind. Nick, can we discuss the details of the project? Of course. Please take a look at this material. I handed her the documents and briefly explained the project. As expected of the technical department, her understanding was quick. Her questions were specific and precise, and the conversation flowed smoothly, leaving me with a clear mind. After the meeting, I left her company feeling much better. Of all the companies I visited, this one seemed the most promising. I thought about consulting Tom about it while glancing at my watch. It was just before noon, lunchtime. I decided to gather my thoughts over lunch before heading back to the office. I walked a bit and spotted a small diner. I walked in and found that more than half of the seats were already occupied. I sat at a table for two, placed my bag in the storage area, and looked over the lunch menu. After some deliberation, I ordered the daily special. While casually sipping water and glancing around, I noticed that the diner had become completely full. A few people were waiting near the entrance, and the staff were asking customers if they could share tables. A waiter came to me with the same request, and having no reason to refuse, I agreed. Soon, the waiter brought my table mate, and our eyes met, causing me to gasp in surprise. Oh, we recognized each other and exclaimed in unison. It was Anna, sitting across from me, looking slightly embarrassed. Anna greeted me and took the seat in front of me. "What a coincidence," she said. "Yes, it's lunchtime, so I thought I'd have a meal before heading back to the office." "That's right. This place is great. Affordable, generous portions, and delicious. I highly recommend it." Anna, clearly a regular, ordered without even looking at the menu, then placed her phone on the table. Her phone had a faded blue minivan keychain, which caught my eye. "Isn't that our company's car?" "Yes, I've loved this model since I was a kid. My dad bought me this keychain when I was in elementary school, and it's very special to me, so I still keep it." Her eyes sparkled as she spoke, revealing her genuine love for cars. "My late father worked in your company's development department. He was involved in developing this car and often talked to me about it, which sparked my interest in the automotive industry." "That's interesting. My dad also worked on that minivan project, so they might have known each other." "Wow, that would be quite a connection. Both you and your dad work for the same company. That's amazing." "Well, maybe, but you're amazing too, honestly. Isn't it tough being a woman in this industry's technical field?" "Yes, it can be challenging. People often say because you're a woman or even though you're a woman, and it gets tiring. But it makes me want to prove them wrong even more," she said cheerfully. Her demeanor was admirable, and I found it impressive. Eventually, I decided to proceed with contracting Anna's company as our top choice. All the companies had great technology and reliable representatives, but her company stood out the most. Her genuine passion for cars made me feel that we could create something great together. As we moved towards finalizing the contract, I frequently visited her company to discuss specifications and conditions. Over these discussions, Anna and I became quite friendly. After our meetings, we often ended up at the same diner, chatting about various topics. These days, when everything seemed to be going smoothly, I was preparing for an internal meeting the next day. I stopped by the factory and noticed I was missing some documents related to the contract with Anna's company. Apparently, I had forgotten to collect them from her company. It was completely my fault. Feeling a bit guilty, I contacted Anna to set up an appointment. She kindly agreed, saying, "It might take a little while to prepare, so you might have to wait, but it's no problem." If I went back to headquarters first, it would be past her company's closing time. Feeling slightly rude but needing the documents, I headed to her company in my work clothes. Anna was still preparing the documents. A young female clerk, possibly a new employee, led me to the usual reception room. Just as I reached for the iced coffee she brought, a hand from the side snatched it away. "It's cold." Before I could react, someone splashed the coffee on me. I had no idea what was happening. Confused, I looked up to see a middle-aged man with a sneer holding the empty cup. "That dirty work uniform might be a bit cleaner now. Be grateful." "What? Whether you're a subcontractor or a lowly worker, who gave you permission to enter the reception room? The representative from Mitchell Motors will be here soon, so get out. Get out now, you slow-witted loser." The middle-aged man twisted his face into a crooked smile, grabbed my arm, and forcibly yanked me to my feet, causing me to wince in pain. Just then, the reception room door burst open. "Brandon, what are you doing?" "Huh. I'm teaching this lowly worker a lesson." "Get lost, you useless woman." "Brandon, what are you saying? This person is the representative from Mitchell Motors. Let go of him immediately." "There's no way. A guy in a dirty work uniform with a face like a lowly worker can't possibly be an employee of a prestigious company." "Anna, have you lost your mind?" The manager, Brandon, roughly let go of my arm. Then he mockingly tapped his temple with his index finger, as if to imply she was crazy. I was stunned, but seeing him ridicule Anna made me furious. "The one who's crazy is you. Can't you read the company name on this uniform?" I pointed to the chest area of my work uniform, stained with coffee. There, of course, was the name Mitchell Motors. The color drained from Brandon's previously arrogant face. Granted, it was urgent, so I came in this outfit, which was my mistake. But throwing coffee on someone is absurd. Maybe you're the one who's lost it. I mimicked his earlier gesture, tapping my temple with my finger. I knew stooping to his level wasn't ideal, but I couldn't help responding. Brandon's face turned beet red with anger. He looked like he wanted to yell at me but barely held back. I looked at him with cold disdain. You told me to leave, so I'm going. Goodbye. I left the reception room and headed towards the entrance. Unfortunately, the sky was overcast, and it was raining heavily. I didn't have an umbrella, and I didn't want to take the bus in my coffee-stained clothes. Just as I was about to call a taxi, I heard someone calling my name. Nick. I turned to see Anna running towards me with an umbrella and some documents. She reached me, out of breath, and handed me the umbrella, looking worried. Nick, are you okay? Did you get burned? No, thankfully it was iced coffee. Did you come all the way here just to bring me an umbrella? Well, that, and I wanted to give you these documents. But I guess you don't need them anymore after what Brandon did. Thank you. But about the contract, it's complicated. It's a big deal between companies, and I can't make a decision here and now. Don't hold back, Nick. If the contract is canceled, it serves him right, she laughed, as if a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. I was surprised by this unexpected reaction from Anna, whom I always thought of as serious. The rain is heavy, and you're soaked. If you don't mind, I can give you a ride. No, that's too much, and you're still on the clock, right? Don't worry about it. I plan to submit my resignation tomorrow. What? Resignation? You're quitting. I had enough of Brandon. Today was the final straw. If you don't mind, can I vent to you on the way? Sure. Feeling somewhat overwhelmed by her determination, I nodded. We walked to the parking lot, and she unlocked a white car. Please get in. Thank you. I hesitantly got into her car. Anna, sitting in the driver's seat, asked, Is it okay if I take you to your company, Nick? I nodded in response. She started the engine, set the destination on the GPS, and began driving. The guy who threw the coffee, Brandon, is a power-harassing, incompetent nepotism hire. Nepotism. Yeah, he's the nephew of our company's president, Mr. Thompson. He always flaunts that connection, bosses everyone around, and yells at subordinates without reason. Yet he's terrible at his job. Wow, I can't believe there's still someone like that. Does the upper management know and ignore it? I'm not sure. Our company is pretty old-fashioned and doesn't take compliance seriously. There's no internal reporting system for employees to directly talk to upper management without going through their bosses. Most managers just try to stay on Brandon's good side, so nothing gets reported. He's basically unchecked. She let out a heavy sigh. There was a veteran employee who fought to report his misdeeds to upper management, but Brandon crushed him by deliberately causing a loss and blaming it on the veteran, forcing him to resign. What? He caused a loss just to get rid of an employee he didn't like. Yes, it's unbelievable, but he doesn't care about the company as long as he can harass those he dislikes. It's truly unbelievable that the company lets this go on. It really is. Today, he barged in trying to steal the credit for the contract with your company without knowing anything about the project. Despite the fact that the whole company has been talking about this contract, he didn't know about it until today. I've been submitting reports and discussing it in meetings, but he must have ignored the reports and zoned out during the meetings. He has no interest in the job, and then he throws coffee on you. That's quite something. The power of assumptions, right? He probably thought the representative of a big company like yours must be an elite in a sharp suit, so he couldn't believe that someone in work clothes could be the representative, even though the company's name was on the uniform. That's Brandon for you. Many employees have left because of him, whether they were forced out like the veteran or left because they couldn't stand him anymore. Those who stayed are either trying to curry favor with him or just avoiding trouble. I love this industry, so I endured his tyranny, but I've reached my limit. I see. I didn't realize there was such a problematic person in your company. I was tasked with assessing people and companies, but I still have a lot to learn. Don't be too hard on yourself. It's impossible to know the internal dynamics from an outsider's perspective. Only a detective or an officer might be able to figure that out. She sighed deeply, probably one of many sighs she's let out. She's likely been struggling with this for a long time. I wondered if there was something I could do for her. There is one thing, though. It might bring me down to Brandon's level, which I wanted to avoid if possible. But desperate times call for desperate measures. After a moment of thought, I decided to speak up. If you had a way to get back at Brandon, would you take it? Anna looked at me with a blank expression. She might have wondered why I suddenly brought this up. After a brief pause, she nodded. If there's a way, I'd like to see him face consequences. Someone like him ruins the environment for making good products. I don't want to waste the efforts of my colleagues and predecessors who fought against him. But Nick, what's your plan? It's simple. We'll fight fire with fire. It's a bit childish, but since he started it, I think it's justified. She looked puzzled, but I smiled reassuringly. After she dropped me off at my company, I headed straight to a certain room. As I walked, the employees I passed seemed surprised by my appearance and the odd air about me. I knocked on the door of a specific room without paying any attention to their reactions. A few days later, under the pretext of a business meeting, I called Anna to our company's conference room. As I led the way and knocked on the conference room door, I could sense Anna gasp behind me. Mr. Mitchell. Inside the meeting room was Mr. Mitchell, our company president. Anna, being a car enthusiast, must have recognized him. She stood there, stunned. You're Anna, right? My son has told me a lot about you. Your son? She seemed confused, trying to remember if she knew anyone with the last name Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell looked at me and smiled. The man standing next to you. Wait, really? She looked at me, and I nodded. Really, yes, really. I heard your father worked at the same company, but I had no idea you were his son. But your last name is different. She looked puzzled, glancing between Mr. Mitchell and me. I used my mother's maiden name, Anderson, at work to keep my position as the president's son under wraps. My real name is Nick Mitchell. Only a few executives and some employees know about it. I was born into a privileged family with parents who, despite their busy schedules, showered me with love. I love cars and have always admired my father, who works hard for the company. I worked hard to follow in his footsteps. However, being in a perfect environment often led to unwarranted jealousy and envy. When I did well on exams or entrance tests, people would accuse me of using my parents' influence. The same went for sports and the arts. Even compliments like "your parents are so accomplished, so of course you turn out great too," didn't bring me any joy. Friends would jokingly call me rich boy, but it stung. In high school, my first girlfriend used me to brag, saying, "My boyfriend is the president's son." Being the president's only son was a huge burden for me, and that's why I wanted to hide my identity and prove myself on my own while I was young. This guy here is stubborn. He insisted on not using any connections, took our company's entrance exam on his own, and joined the development team by his merit. Though I did ask Tom from the development department to give him tasks outside his main duties to broaden his experience. Sending him to handle the contract with your company was part of that. I told him to develop his ability to evaluate other companies and people. I never expected him to come back with coffee spilled on him. That was truly unacceptable behavior from our employee. I deeply apologize. It's not you who needs to apologize. It needs to come from Brandon himself. Yes, you're right. Anna nodded with a conflicted expression, likely thinking that Brandon would never apologize. We're thinking of giving him a bit of a scare. A scare, yes. If he shows remorse and apologizes, that would be ideal. But from what I've heard, he doesn't seem the type. So we'll go directly to the main person, President Mr. Thompson. My son tells me that many talented employees have left because of Brandon's tyranny. Your company is reputable and skilled, and we'd hate to lose that. To help your company improve, we'll use the contract as leverage and tell them we can't trust a company that ignores compliance issues. He paused and smiled kindly, a look I recognized from home, not from his role as the president. Also, Anna, your father was a valued employee of mine. He often talked about you. I can't stand by while his precious daughter is treated this way. Let me help. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. I appreciate your support. The meeting was set for a week later in the same reception room at Anna's company, after business hours. Seeing Brandon's dismayed face upon seeing me and the confused look on Mr. Thompson's face was somewhat amusing. Anna, attending under the pretense of being the contract manager, looked tense. "Hello, Brandon. Good to see you again so soon." "Hello, Brandon," Mr. Thompson added. "My son mentioned you took care of him recently." We both turned to Brandon and greeted him with cheerful smiles. He looked slightly puzzled to be greeted by both of us. "My son, you say? I don't quite follow." "Yes, it's only been a few days. My son, who rudely showed up in your reception room in his work clothes, received your attention. You even went out of your way to pour coffee on him to clean up his dirty uniform." At his words, Brandon finally realized who I was. His confused face turned bright red, and he glared at me with a hostile expression. "His son? You? What's with that attitude towards the president and his son? What did you do to him the other day?" "I have no idea." "I was there," Anna interjected firmly. She, who had been silent until then, spoke up in a firm voice. Brandon glared at her as if to say, "Don't say anything unnecessary," but Anna, resolute in her decision to resign if necessary, didn't care. Nick was waiting in the reception room while I prepared documents. Brandon barged in, yelling, "Your dirty work uniform looks a bit cleaner now, be grateful." When I arrived, Nick was drenched in coffee, and Brandon was shouting at him, "Is this true?" "It's a misunderstanding." "No, she's right." He grabbed my arm and tried to throw me out, saying this wasn't a place for a subcontractor or lowly worker like me. "Your company certainly has impressive employee training," I said, cutting off Brandon's attempt at making an excuse and forcing him into silence. Mr. Thompson turned pale. "What have you done? Apologize now." "I didn't realize he was a client." "That's no excuse." Mr. Thompson forced him to apologize. It seemed Mr. Thompson had some sense of propriety. I'd admired Brandon's audacity to still try to defy me in this situation. Seeing this as my cue, I spoke up. "In regards to the coffee incident, an apology would suffice. The stain was cleaned, and it's not a reason to terminate the contract. However, Brandon, you mentioned you didn't realize I was a client, right? So what that implies, it would be acceptable to treat your own company's employees or subcontractors that way." "Mr. Thompson, haven't you noticed an increase in resignations from Brandon's department lately? Given his behavior, it's easy to imagine what goes on under his leadership. Personally, I wouldn't want to work under someone like that. We've only heard brief accounts, so we're not making any assumptions, but I believe a good company is built by good employees. An employee who mistreats others is a cancer. In today's world, you never know where information might leak from. If it does, it could cause significant damage to the company. We've had a long relationship with your company and don't want to lose that. I strongly recommend conducting an internal investigation." "You're right. This is very concerning. I had no idea. I will investigate internally, and if what you said is true, there will be severe consequences." "What? You're going to believe an outsider over your own nephew? Listen, this isn't school. Acting like a bully at your age is disgraceful. The investigation will determine the truth, but until then, you're on house arrest." Mr. Thompson spoke with disappointment. Brandon's defense was correct. The words of an outsider alone wouldn't serve as proof. However, ironically, his own attitude was the most damning evidence. The investigation reached out not only to current employees but also to those who had resigned. The results, as expected, were quite revealing. 6 months passed. Anna and I had been busy with work and hadn't seen each other in a while, so we planned to meet for dinner today. Of course, the dinner spot was our usual diner. As I looked over the menu, which now featured some new items, I heard someone call my name, "Nick." I looked up. "Anna, it's been a while. You look great." "Really? Thanks. I'm enjoying my work a lot, thanks to you and your father." "I'm glad to hear that. We kept in touch via email and phone, but I was worried about you. By the way, what happened to Brandon?" We had grown even closer, frequently exchanging personal messages. We both still love cars and remain dedicated to our work, maintaining a relationship that feels like comrades in arms. Even after learning that I'm the son of a major company's president, she treats me the same. These days, I find my relationship with her to be very comforting. I haven't told you the whole story. Brandon was transferred to the factory. Initially, they considered firing him, but they decided it was safer to keep him where Mr. Thompson could keep an eye on him. "Is it safe to keep him in the company?" There's a foreman at the factory, an old friend of Mr. Thompson. If anything happens, Mr. Thompson will hear about it right away. Brandon can't bully anyone there. The foreman is strict and intimidating, and Brandon can't stand up to strong people. I see. That's one way to handle it. It's probably the best way to straighten him out. Exactly. Those who supported his misconduct were also punished, but things are improving. Everyone is motivated to make top-quality products again. One day, I'll make something that will impress you, so be prepared. She smiled proudly, looking radiant and beautiful. Life is unpredictable. Anna, who once considered quitting, now shines with enthusiasm, and the man who caused so much trouble faced his consequences. Life can change for better or worse, depending on our decisions and actions. It's time for me to take a leap too. With a sense of determination, I took out a pair of movie tickets from my bag.